All right, good morning. Welcome back. It's now 6 minutes past 7 o'clock, and it's time we want to pay attention to a conversation that was very hot 3 years ago. We were having an election, and now we are 2 years to the next one. And speaking to us this morning as we take a look at the government scorecard is Steve Ogola, who is an advocate of the High Court. We also have Gabriel Muthuma, who is a political analyst and was very vocal during that season of 2017 election. Wanjeri Nderu, who is a communications consultant, will be joining us shortly. And let me begin with you, Muthuma. Of course, we will remember you for the things you said and analyzed towards the election of 2017. Now it's been 3 years. We see that a pact has been formed between ODM and Jubilee, KANU and Jubilee, Wiper and Jubilee. Everyone has come back home, or rather has gone home. Did you foresee this situation? What does this tell us even as we focus on 2022?
Thank you, Sam, and thank you for inviting us. I'll say two things. First of all, thank you for reminding me that we were here some years back, and most of the things that we actually analyzed came to pass, but that's not the point this morning. The point is, did we see these pacts coming together? You know, after the election, there was, which was quite divisive, and you needed to bring people together. We saw something called the handshake come in. We saw quite a lot of things that have, taken shape. We saw several parties that were actually on the other side of the divide come in to work with the ruling coalition, which is Jubilee. And to be honest, I think
well, unfortunately, we appear to have lost Gabriel there. We'll be trying to reconnect with him. Well, I think I can hear him, but even as we confirm the quality of that signal, let's speak to Wakili Steve Ogola. You're also very vocal in analyzing the affairs of 2017, and I'll raise the same question to you. A lot of shifting that has happened. Did we foresee this, and what does it tell us for the future?
Thank you, Sam. I think during the election, what we saw was what you may consider as a struggle for option into the club of resource managers. You know, Kenyans have not yet internalized the idea of governance as having on the principle of service delivery. How we understand governance is that it gives you opportunity for wealth accumulation. What you have seen in this administration is that corruption has deepened and widened. There has been instances of malfeasance, wastage and pilferage of public resources. And this is hardly surprising because it's the entire political infrastructure. But there is some to be sure. I don't have much faith myself, even in the government in waiting, the political opposition, because as you can see, the way they get co-opted easily in government, that shows you that they don't have a different philosophy or ideology that can provide that alternative government if Jubilee was not in power. So it's a sad state of affairs. I think what we must always remember, the voter, Sam, has a role to play. You know, the Kenyan voter is a spectacular coward, lacking in courage and conviction, breathing fire and promising brimstone, but when presented with an opportunity at the ballot to organize differently, they vote the same way. So my projection is, even the incoming government after this election, after this government has completed this term, will operate in the same philosophy that Jubilee administration has done. Whether that government is founded from Jubilee,
but Wakili, is there really an alternative? Because in 2017, yes, there were two competing sides, but today they're working together. So do we have a real option at the ballot?
You see, what I've said is this. The political elite views governance as an opportunity for co-option into the club of resource managers. The struggle for power is not a struggle for service delivery. And I think I need Kenyans to internalize this and make peace with it. Because if you don't agonize about the nature and the state of our governance, you will not be able to organize it. And the problem is not necessarily with Jubilee. The problem is the political ideology in this country. I can tell you some.
Right.
Even if NASA was in parliament, in government, they would do the same thing, if not even worse. Because as you can see, in terms of checking the government in power, they are not checking government in power. They are fully co-opted. Jubilee itself is co-opted into the philosophy.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Do we have Gabriel Muthuma? Because I would want to raise this question about the situation that we find ourselves, because in 2013 there was that promise, a very elaborate manifesto of so many things that were to be done, including the school laptops. You know where we are now. Then come 2017, I remember it was November 28th, the president gives an account of the Big Four agenda that he detailed on the 12th of December that year. Where do we stand? Because universal health coverage, you see where it is now. We're dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. We still haven't installed the plans that were. The affordable housing stalled because we do not have the contribution coming from the employers and employees. If you talk about manufacturing, maybe it's getting a boost from the COVID-19 PPEs. And then there's the food security. I don't know, what's your comment about the progress that has been made so far, and do you think this was a promise that has been kept by the government?
Thank you, Sam, once again, and apologies for the earlier disconnections. I think when you look at the Jubilee manifesto when they were coming in, it was an amazing manifesto. If you read it and if you sat down with it and tried to internalize it, it was actually an amazing manifesto. Same thing I would say to the NASA manifestos. These were actually manifestos that were gearing to give us some element of identity and to even show how these both coalitions wanted to take us development-wise. Come in Jubilee with the issue of the laptop, which I believe was a noble idea. Even though in the beginning it was, it took a political tangent, it was a noble idea. And by the way, think about it this way, Sam. If we allowed that noble idea to take shape, tell you what, during the COVID era, we have been introduced to an element where we have seen we lacked a very big chunk of identifying our schools and holding them into into technology. If we would have put in place this great idea where each child was able to access this technology, let me tell you, today probably we'll be talking something different. If the Jubilee government had foreseen such a thing, which I know probably, I mean, it was a good thing that came into play. If we had just worked it, found a way to ensure that our schools are connected throughout, today we could actually be speaking something different at the advent of COVID-19. All our children in public schools probably could be attending learning. So Sam, there's something on that which on that side I think which we fumbled and dropped the ball, because that project I do not even know what happened to the laptop school project, and I know it had great partners like UNICEF and what have you. So I'm yet to understand what happened there. But we saw the SGR come up quickly.
No, Gabriel, allow me. I'll get back to you as you talk about the Big Four agenda. But first, let's bring in Wanjeri Nderu. Good morning, Wanjeri. We are talking about the government scorecard. Steve Ogola feels that politicians use governance to enrich themselves. For Muthuma believes that the manifesto and the promises that were made, especially at the start of the Jubilee leadership administration in 2013, was very progressive. But then again, there has been those challenges. What would be your rating in terms of the achievements that have been made over the past 7 years by the Jubilee government, even as we look ahead to the expiry of President Kenyatta's term in 2 years?
Good morning, and sorry for my connection. In fact, now I'm on the cell phone. Something is off with my laptop. I would agree with Steve. We have a government that even when we talk about a manifesto being very good on paper and all the things that they told us they would bring to us as Kenyans, we have a government that has theft-inspired ideas. This government is literally a pack of thieves that just sit down and figure out how are we going to steal from Kenyans, what else can we come up with that will hoodwink Kenyans and steal from them. So there is nothing like, there's no scorecard here to look at really. We are talking about, wezi kabisa, like thieves. I don't even have the words to describe the thuggery that we have seen with this administration. So when we talk about a scorecard, the only thing that we see is them telling us in the portals about the achievements that they have done, but things on the ground are different. I have just heard about those laptops being mentioned. You're talking about giving laptops to kids who are sitting on the floor, on stones, in flooded classrooms, or even outside under trees. They don't even have network. They have nothing where they are. They don't even have a decent blackboard. But we come up with an idea about giving children all over the country laptops. And let's assume that idea, which is a very good idea on paper, worked. Right now, we would be having the e-learning that is happening, which is not happening. It's happening to a very select few. Even us who have laptops, our children are fighting to get access to that laptop because the classes are coinciding. And some of us who have many children, like I have 3, that means I have to get each child a laptop for them to be able to access these classes. This bunch of thieves is the worst thing that has happened in this country since independence.
Right, Wanjeri, I hear you. I want to give you an opportunity so that you can stabilize your device, and as you do so, Steve Ogola. So now, Wanjeri feels that yes, the promises can be made, but of course, saying that we have just a group of thieves getting into government. So what are we supposed to do? Because as sure as day or the sun is, we will have an election in 2022. We'll be faced by the same political class to come and elect. So how do we ensure, yes, that we have the challenges like she's talking about, people not in a classroom, there's no network coverage. How do you ensure that we're able to progress and move forward and take every step of the way?
I think we need to retrace our steps and begin to have some moral conversations around the idea of organizing government. You know, in 2012, let me draw some comparison. In 2012, the World Bank published a report titled Evolution Without Disruption. But if you look at the challenges the World Bank was documenting in that report, they very much speak the national government. And these challenges have never been addressed in the counties. They have not been addressed in the national government, but I can highlight a few. Number one, they talked about deepening corruption. That corruption is deep in this country, so corruption will be devolved in the counties. So as we go towards 2022, we have to be aware that government is organized in the context of corruption, and corruption creates an impulsion for maladministration. They talk about the next elections. In this country, as soon as a government is elected, it starts thinking how to renew that mandate at the next election. So what it will do, it will initiate a lot of projects that are visible, even if those projects are not completed. In fact, the idea is not to complete them, because then you can use that to negotiate a renewal of your mandate. It talks about coordination problems. We have seen poor coordination even during this COVID-19 period, a pandemic. Intra-government coordination or interagency coordination is lacking. They talk about local capture in the counties, which can mean at the national level elite capture. We know, and that's why I was saying that even NASA would not do better. You see, there is the unspoken hand, there's the invisible hand that runs government. The powerful cartels. Some of them are found in the private sector. The people that fund elections, the people that influence the outcome of elections using money. These are the people that drive, that influence the development agenda of any administration in power. Until you start limiting the influence of the invisible hands in politics, you'll probably be struggling with the same issues post-2022 elections. They talk about lack of comparative benefit, understanding of comparative benefit to what we can do in one county as against the other county. So in short, here's the thing. I think what is lacking in this country right now is a conversation that drives us towards understanding why we organize ourselves at the ballot. The organizing philosophy as it is right now, Sam, is that of inclusion for purposes of managing resources. Everybody wants to be in government so that they can also have a chance at distribution of national resources. Look at what is happening in the division of revenue roles. Senators are bypassing the standard, the framework already articulated in Article 203 of the Constitution. And they are insisting on what they are calling one man, one shilling, one vote, instead of looking at the holistic analysis of the issue. So the bottom line is this. What I like about the current political situation in the country, there's calmness, there's peace and tranquility. Kenyans should use this opportunity, instead of bashing BBI, use this opportunity that now that there is peace and calmness, to reflect more intimately on what kind of changes they want to see after this government is term. but they're not doing that as it is right now.
Oh, all right, Wakili, we'll get back to the conversation around BBI. But first, Gabriel, so we were talking about the question of the Big Four agenda. And like I told you, if you had to look at it on the face of it, it would appear that there has not been so much done, or rather, even if it's being done, the fruits are not yet being felt. So what defines President Kenyatta's legacy with just 2 years to the end and the Big Four agenda not showing a very good record so far?
Sam, I'd like us to be very clear on this one piece, and this is what you're calling the Big Four agenda. And I want us to be very clear on that. And by the way, even before I mentioned it, there's this notion that we've come across of bashing government. You know, we can bash government from January to December. It is actually a very good thing, and it becomes populous. But that is not the issue. As we bash, as we criticize, we must also give credit to where work has been done. So yes, at times we will bash government. Where they go wrong, we will hold them to account. But where they have done something, let us actually congratulate them and hope that they can build on better. And I repeat, let us hope and pray that they can build on better. The Big Four agenda, when you look at them, this is a great political advance. When you're talking about universal health care, forget me and Wakili here. Look at the Mama Mashinani. Look at the people who used to travel from Turkana, coming all the way to Nairobi to do dialysis. All right? But now they are able to go to a local hospital and they are able to get these services. It's not only dialysis alone. There are so many other things that what you call universal healthcare has actually been able to sort. So now, build this great healthcare advance to all counties and see how it will work. It may not begin and end, or rather, it may not end with the Uhuru administration, but the other administration coming in should also build on better. When you look at the advance that we are talking about in food security, who doesn't want, which county does not want to be food secure? When you come to housing, even though there are challenges, who wouldn't want? I mean, look at what COVID has actually presented to us. So the Big Four agenda,
Gabriel, that's all good, but the question remains, yes, the promise was made on the 12th of December 2017, but what is on the ground? Yes. Because counties were asked to have at least 300 bed capacity to contain COVID-19. To date, there are still countries that don't have that yet. If you're talking about the manpower, they still don't have sufficient numbers of doctors and nurses or healthcare workers.
Correct.
What would you list as the specific gains made in this?
That's why I'm so quick. That's why I'm so quick to interject and say this will not end with the Uhuru administration. It may actually go to 2 or 3 more administrations if you carry the Big Four agenda. The Big Four agenda should actually not be seen as it may start with Uhuru, but it may not be seen as his title project. No, this should be built around what you call a national agenda. Let Kenya know that in the next 30, 40 years, this is what we want. And that's why I'm saying we need to build on the good. If we build on the good, I mean, it's not that when Uhuru leaves government, he will go away with the hospitals that he brought through the Big Four agenda. It's not that he will go with all the government initiatives that he brought in when he was president. The SDR is going to be there. The hospitals are going to be there. If he institutes great food security and great housing, these are projects that are going to be there. Look at the model on China. China took 40 to 50 years to develop a national agenda. So as we focus on the Big Four, let us marinate the Big Four with the national agenda. And let me tell you something, in the next 20, 30 years...
All right, let me cut you short, Gabriel, because Wanjeri is still on the line. Wanjeri, so Gabriel tells us to be positive and to understand that this will not end with President Kenyatta. Are there certain good things that you'd say appear to come from the Big Four agenda that you'd highlight, even as we know that the president still has 2 years to accomplish his vision for the country?
I'll still repeat what I had said earlier. There is nothing wrong with whatever it is that they put on paper. But if we are serious and we want to go on the ground and confirm, for instance, when you talk about universal health care, one of the most corrupt spaces in this country is the Ministry of Health. It is a house of theft. That money that they steal can be able to put that universal healthcare that is very nice on paper to actually work on the ground. But if you go to the ground, it is not working. I'll give you a good example. When this COVID issue started, we were getting calls from doctors in Kakamega, in other places around the country, and they're saying we do not even have, anything that we can work with in this area. We do not have not just the protective gear. We're talking even just drugs that can manage symptoms. They had nothing. Our doctors are frustrated. You cannot have a universal healthcare that does not even look into the issues the doctors are raising, their salaries, to even we have our health passing away from COVID because they can't even access proper medical care in the same institutions they're working in. So everything is good on paper. And I'm not, in fact, if there's something you're saying they've got right, it's everything that is written. That paperwork they have, those portals, very nice. But when you look at what is happening on the ground, it is not real. It is not authentic for us to sit there and say that we need to stop bashing government. Telling them they're messing up with Kenyans is not bashing them. It is telling them the truth. And this whole brigade of positivity brigade, we've seen it. We've seen it all the time that we need to be positive. What are you positive about when the state of this nation is going under every single day as we see it? We are having people dying. We're having a government burying our people who are dying from COVID like rats, throwing them in holes in the middle of the night. What is there to be positive about? So you tell me what is there that the government has done from that whole Agenda 4 thing that we can be able to say has been able to benefit a large chunk number of people. Look at the issue of maternity. Women are giving birth still the same way, even before this thing was done. There's not much difference. We have marathons we are running to raise money. The amount of money we are raising, which is a very ridiculous middle class plan, by the way, is a dot. It is a drop in the ocean compared to the amount of money they are stealing. And then you want me to wear a t-shirt and run so that I can raise 200 million. You get what I mean? We have everything all wrong. We have everything all wrong. Let us
right, but Wanjeri, even as you talk about the theft going on, we know even yesterday we saw the Cabinet Secretary for Health admitting that there's some work that he's doing to rid the Ministry of Corruption. We've also seen a bit of boosted war against corruption with the coming in of the DPP, the DCI. Don't you see this as positive stories towards the legacy of President Kenyatta?
Until we have those people he is claiming are thieves in jail, it is all talk and no action. We recently saw two very high-profile individuals interdicted. They were charged, they were found guilty, and they were fined, and their alternative was to go to jail. Within no time, one of them had raised close to 1 billion shillings of the bail. This is pocket change to some of these people. So all this is just flowering a wound, you know? Let us first begin, even now, as we're talking about corruption, the president's family itself is implicated in some of these scandals. As recent as the Camry issue, where we are having their daughters getting tenders for things they cannot even supply. That is our money they're playing with. Those are our donations. That is our sweat and blood they're stealing. So we do not want this whole story of, there's corruption is being fought, just word of mouth. There's no way Mheshimiwa Kagwe is going to tell us he's fighting corruption.
Okay, Wanjeri, of course you're raising very serious issues there, but I want to toss it to Wakili Ogola. Do you agree that the progress has been so slow? Of course, she's talking about the case of John Oluken and his co-accused. They have since appealed, and that is within their right as part of the defense. But do you think there are notable gains made during President Kenyatta's tenure, especially with the fight against corruption?
Yes, I think there are some notable gains. Let me just highlight a few. I think if you look at the transition of power from Mzee Kenyatta to Mzee Moi to Kibaki to Uhuru Kenyatta, what Uhuru Kenyatta has succeeded in doing, number one, is to demystify and depersonalize the presidency. I think Kenyans are now more comfortable discussing the presidency than they ever were before. And I hope that the next person coming in power will continue with that philosophy of depersonalizing the presidency as an institution so that people can interact with it and criticize it. I think that's a good thing. During this COVID pandemic, Jubilee administration has done very well in terms of access to information. Remember, Tanzania, just across the border, has muted their statistics and they're no longer testing. And remember, Kenya has the capacity to also go that way. They have the potential to mute. So I think that aspect of accountability, they have done well. Number three, if you look at what Gabriel spoke to, affordable, the big four, affordable housing, manufacturing, food security, healthcare. You know, these are things that, if well implemented, would carry transformative potential that would make the lives of Kenyans better. So at conceptualization, I think Jubilee government did very well. I think at the level of the handshake, because remember, it is only during President Uhuru's term that someone has actually sworn himself as an alternative president. There could have been a recipe for chaos. Remember, Kibaki could not handle the post-election violence. There had to be external assistance, the intervention by the Kofi Annan team. This is often or simply celebrated, but remember, Uhuru Kenyatta did not require external assistance to deal with internal challenges. It is still a mystery how they got to have a conversation with the Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga that happened on the 9th of March 2018, the handshake. I think that's something that must be credited to Uhuru Kenyatta as a leader. So those are positive aspects. I think what Kenyans have a problem with, and I agree with Wanjeri, that there's a problem of accountability. Yes, President Uhuru Kenyatta has done well in his second term in strengthening the offices that fight corruption. You see the office of the DPP. The reason why that office
right. Wakili, I need to cut you short because we are standing by to listen to the Speaker of the Nairobi County Assembly, that is Beatrice Elachi, who is addressing the press from her office at City Hall this morning. Do we have her?